So, I have to get something off my chest. I had an agenda with this review, but maybe first, context. I've tried playing Parasite Eve multiple times over the years. Back in the day, I would scour ROM sites for anything square-flavored, being the JRPG-obsessed nerd I was. This exposed me to all kinds of genre blends. Around this time, Square were exploring the limits of what an RPG could be. They also tended to have this vibe, for lack of a better word, that resonated with me a lot. That Y2K era feeling? I also owned Parasite Eve 2 on disc, which emboldened my curiosity. So, crappy emulator in hand, I played it, and I remember liking it. I never had any intention of beating it, just to create a mental log that game good, check back later. Though, there definitely was something that stopped me dead in my tracks, but I can't remember what that was right this minute. Years go by, looking for something to play, cleaning my mental shelves when I remember, oh wait, Parasite Eve, game good! So I grab a copy to play, boot it up, and I feel nothing, or rather complete apathy towards it. That's new and a little bit scary. Maybe I just didn't gel with the opera intro, that's fine, back on the mental shelf you go. More years move past, and while looking for games to stream, I remember, oh wait, Parasite Eve, good game. I booted up, ready to show my 5 viewers this cool ass game, only to get stuck in the intro for 20 minutes because I missed a key. That's fine, we're here to hang anyway. Inside the zoo I get stuck again for half an hour thanks to another key related issue. I'm also just getting mad underneath. I don't think I've dodged an enemy attack in a while, limping through this entire sequence. After beating the last boss for this chapter, I just dropped the game as soon as I could. Another attempt to play it in 2021 ended the same way, it just took a little longer. This all caused an invasive thought to enter my head. Maybe game not good. Cut to now, and it's clear that the Shadow Hearts Covenant review ain't happening anytime soon. Asterix. And I need something. I take a look at my master list of games to play this year, and there it was. Parasite Eve. I booted up with morbid curiosity, tainted by multiple bad experiences. I dive in, and I find out I love it to bits. Waking up excited to play it every day. The fuck? So back to that agenda. I'm curious why or even how my opinion on this game flip-flopped to such extremes, because let me be frank, game is good. But maybe game also evil? Parasite Eve's opening hour is a great vertical slice of the game's greatest strengths, while also revealing a few blind spots. Our protagonist and cop, Aya Brea, arrives at Carnegie Hall with her rich boyfriend. Not seeming very eager to be there, she enters the building with this lovely perspective shot, pushing her boyfriend out of the way to open the door as the first act starts. Aya, seemingly unaffected by these flames, punts her boyfriend and rushes to the stage, gun in hand, to confront the singer. Girl, where were you keeping that? Who proceeds to fire lasers at you, naturally. This awakens something in Aya, unlocking powers unfamiliar to her. After the scuffle, she announces that her name is Eve and flees backstage. Aya, giving chase, encounters a rat, which Okay, I'm sure I put some sort of warning at the beginning, but just to put a full stop on that point, I hesitate to file this under just gore or body horror, as it's a mix of both, but this game has animals grossly transforming and people melting. Albeit in 90s CG, but, just keep that in mind. Back to the rat. Ugh. Checking the rooms for the singer, we learn her name is not Eve, but Melissa, and she was taking a lot of medication for something. We also loot the entire building because this is a video game and the closet has ammo in it for some reason. Should we check to see if the clown is okay? Nah, quick, Aya, loot the lockers! Inside the performance room, we find Melissa playing the piano, appearing to have an eternal crisis until she too transforms. Announcing that it is time for the mitochondria to become free. A second laser gun fight later, she escapes via the sewer systems. Aya leaves the building and monologues about the horrors that will come in the following days. End of chapter 1. It's an effective intro that sets up the mystery of the story, informs you that exploration is beneficial equipment-wise, and that it has very little puzzles with keys taking their place, and forgiving combat encounters for you to mess around in. Although, if I could double back on that point about the keys, this game sometimes has small and honestly nasty interaction boxes when exploring. I'll leave it at that for now. Just remember not to be distracted by the corpse falling over, or the save point in this room. Check the body for a second time to find an important key. Even I missed it again, and I should know better. And with all the events at Carnegie Hall, we zoom out to see New York. And oh god, do I love low poly New York. Simply looking at this makes me happy. Especially the even lower poly pseudo reflections. You see that? They just put even crappier ones underneath. It's so good. Once you pass the intro, it will become the world map. Granted, this is 1990s New York, in case you were wondering. It's just full of little flourishes. Helicopters buzzing around, boats patrolling the Bay Area. Each location has the camera wildly spin around, excited to show you what they made. Maybe with a little Easter egg now and again. And just when you thought you'd seen it all, surprise, daylight version. It's just so PS1, you know? I also really adore the car scenes that bridge plot points. The drivers going at completely unrealistic speeds while having idle chit-chat. And it's doubly as absurd when Daniel just comes out and says, "Hold on, I'm gonna kick this baby into turbo." Bro, how could you go any faster than the speed of light? Inside these places we have pre-renders, some of which do look a little crunchy at times on modern displays. Whoa dude, be careful with that office chair, you might cut yourself. While this game uses the same engine as Final Fantasy VII, we've come a long way from that. Back in that game, indoor locations had a lot of negative space, which is a very blunt way of saying that they weren't very stylized. You kind of view them in the same way that the designer did. That's not to say Final Fantasy VII was devoid of interesting angles, because that just isn't true. Just compared to a game they produced a year later, you can feel they're a lot more familiar with their tools. The team in charge of Parasite Eve tried to minimize the negative space, all the while finding more compelling shots when they could. They did have to play it safe for most of the game for the sake of combat. No teleporting to the battle dimension here, just fight right here and now. Which of course means that the battlefield needs to be readable. It's probably why places like the museum feel like a dungeon thanks to those changes. With all that in mind, it did not stop them from letting their imagination run wild from time to time. I have zero clue what's happening in this display, but I'm weirdly okay with it. All the while drawing from 90s real-life New York for the more iconic locations. These photos I'm showing you might be very recent, but you can clearly see what inspired the in-game locations. Oh wow, the Chrysler building really is this level of Art Deco, even to this day. I love it. Though, I don't think this is playing through the speakers. Yoko Shimomura, a veritable music icon, who you most likely know from the Kingdom Hearts series, is the composer for this game, and she does not disappoint. There's a good variety in here. Tense exploration tracks. Suspenseful conversations. A comforting home base. And quite some fantastic battle tracks, a few of which you can hear the rhythmic seeds that will get expanded on later on. Though sometimes areas have nothing playing in them, and I get drop in the background music to focus on a thing or to create some uncertainty, all valid. But why does the weapons department have nothing when the rest of the building does? Oh boy, I can't wait to go work on my gear! Hello? The police chief's room being silent makes perfect sense. He's a very serious person. I just feel like Wayne would be a guy blasting rock and roll while working on guns. As I said, it's fine for the quote-unquote dungeons. It feels wrong comparing real-life locations to a dangerous video game area. St. Francis Hospital, the Natural History Museum, Central Park, Chinatown. Though, as someone who has been mugged and shaken down for drugs at 1 in the morning, I guess anywhere can be a dungeon. It's just usually the humans that are the threat, not boomerang monkeys. While these areas definitely feel like peak PS1 Final Fantasy, you'll be chewing through them much faster. The director wanted Parasite Eve to be a cinematic RPG, pulling more from movies to create a faster pace to get the player into the next set piece. So most if not all but one area is very streamlined. It does create this environmental whiplash at times, but only if you stop to actually question it. Running through Chinatown, you descend to the sewers through a manhole, which eventually leads to a water management console that has a submarine door, which leads to a room that feels from an entirely different game. Only to open one more door and boom, subway. Run down the tracks and you'll arrive on a suspension bridge. At the time, I never really questioned it, so they must have done something right? It's thanks to this breakneck pace we don't really have puzzles, more like are you awake checks. Okay, the power's on. Let me fix this electrical cable. So if puzzles are out of the question, then what do we have in their place? Keys! Which aren't nearly as interesting, but I'll make do. Man, you've been making a big deal out of these keys. Why is that? It's all burned into my head thanks to one single key. One key that caused me hours of anguish. The zoo key. Let's set the scene. Eve is in the middle of Central Park. and we need to get to her before she harms a lot of people. To get to her, we need to pass through the zoo. Why can't we just walk around it? Don't know, but it's another case of the game presenting itself with such confidence in its own pace that you don't question it at the moment. It just makes sense. Maybe the more dangerous animals are in the woods around the building. Something that might reasonably be true. Regardless, in order to pass through the back gate, we'll need to find the zoo key. The place itself is a decent size with a handful of places to check. A full pass of this place would take about 10 minutes, battles included. So that means the key will take 10 minutes to find, right? Right? No. So, you checked all the chests, juggle your now full inventory, and realize you don't have the key. Oh, maybe I missed it. Better double check some places. Oh, maybe it's on the burned corpse, like the intro. No, better check the area again. One more sweep of the area again. Oh, I found some new armor. Neat, but that's not what I needed. Congratulations! You have now been baited. Try all you like, check the zoo again, you will not find the key, because it's right here, in this little drawer with a tiny interact spot, a foot away from the armor. Hell, on my New Game Plus playthrough, I found out there's even a secret grenade launcher in this room! I hate to shit on games, right? I really do. It does not bring me joy. I've cancelled videos late into production because of the review skewing negative. If I ever come close to doing that, I try to emphasize my own tastes, or my hubris when interacting with the game's systems. See Lost Kingdoms. And I'm about to fillet the hell out of this game's combat system, so it will even out. I cannot stress how much the single key has harmed my perception of this game for so goddamn long. I cannot understand the logic for this placement other than, it's realistic to store things here. Maybe you were supposed to think, oh, there's armor in the cupboards. Maybe this drawer has the key. This section is followed by a trek through a light wood maze with a worm boss that bodies you, if you're not taking the game seriously. This will be a pain point. Doubly so if you're hung up about bad key placement. Whatever. I'm done with that. I'm done. Back to the positives. It's been a while since I've seen a battle system that does a lot with so little and be this good. Let's go over the basics. During exploration, the scene will desaturate, signaling that a fight is about to start. Aya moves to her mark while the enemies spawn in. The battle HUD pops up, complete with an AT bar. Time to fight. You and your enemies have free movement around the battlefield, but nobody can act until their AT bar fills up. Once at 100%, Aya can fire her weapon or open up the menu to use items and abilities. Your opponents also have an AT bar, it's just hidden from the player. You can see the enemies winding up an attack. You're not blind, you just can't see the bar. Superficially, the combat system resembles Vagrant Story, the way a range sphere opens up when selecting an attack, magic to learn and cast. Parasite Eve has a much bigger focus on avoiding attack patterns in real time rather than maintaining chain attacks. And you better be paying attention because your positioning and dodging is your main defensive tool. Failure to do so will result in heavy damage and maybe even a status debuff for your troubles. It's where I drew the most enjoyment from the game. You're not just dropped into this either. All the Eve bosses teach and test you on the fundamentals. First fight, just dodge when the obvious attack animation shows up. Simple. Second fight, where you stand is way more important than reflexively dodging. Trying to move will have you walk right into her laser beams. Third fight, dodge your basic movement that will inflict contact damage, and learn how to deal with AoEs in a tight space. Even the enemies of a chapter tend to have a theme. The game will introduce a monster either alone or in a group containing the same enemies, and then will mix and match later to create combinations that will present problems for you. The zoo has lots of swarms supported by a ranged or a beefy target, while the hospital has AoE produced in enemies so you have to bait correctly to create room to dodge even more projectiles. It's a fantastic feeling to complete these fights, keeping track of the invisible AT bars for the enemies and coming out unscathed. The game allegedly rewards you with upgrade points for doing so you might as well go the extra mile. I will admit though, some of these hitboxes feel fudged. Maybe to increase the difficulty of the game as a whole? This worm flop is a good example. Sure, Jen. Sometimes we're missing a few steps before things get too complex or overwhelming. Oh, okay, wait, ow, stop, fuck, help! Remember to dish out as much pain as you take. The weapons in Parasite Eve don't function that differently from each other, rather specializing in certain traits. Rifles are your strongest weapon, short of a rocket launcher, with a range you'd expect. Just make sure to find the space to fire, as the fire rate and animation is slow. Machine guns are the polar opposite, spitting lead at absurd rates, sometimes at random, which sounds like it would be a positive.
I started blasting.
A weapon's fire rate determines how many bullets you can fire per turn, quotation. So logically, you would think 5 bullets equal 5 times the damage, right? No. Each rank of rate of fire reduces the damage of every bullet fired. I don't think it's as simple as 2 bullets are 50% damage, 3 bullets are 33.3 repeating. So you won't lose damage, I think? Not knowing how the system works will leave you wondering why weapons feel so inconsistent in terms of output. I would recommend staying on the lower numbers in terms of fire rate. Grenade launchers are lacking in most things, but they usually have an elemental trait to steal. A compelling part of Parasite Eve is making weapons your own with tools you find around the world. This includes the shotgun's burst, that turns any weapon you desire into a crowd control monster. Using a tool will destroy the weapon you took something from, but the game showers you in guns in case you make a critical error. Like bringing a fire weapon to a dungeon full of enemies that are resistant to fire. Oh boy, how fun. I was mad that I sort of ruined my own weapon. Thankfully, the devs thought about this and literally put a pistol right after the first fight of this dungeon to compensate for that. And you'll probably want to hold on to a decent pistol for the long run, as they are the jack of all trades, master of all. It's amazing how much of a difference a decent fire rate and an above average critical rate makes in this battle system. Doubly so when you start zooming. Turns out moving faster makes dodging attack patterns much easier. Who knew? Everyone knew. Parasite Eve tops off the combat with what is basically magic. It's Final Fantasy magic. As Aya levels up, she learns new abilities that cost her PE. I think most players will rely on it for the healing magic she obtains. And if you have nothing else to spend her on, sure, knock yourself out. Just don't depend on it for the entire game. There are abilities to bolster your attack or mitigate the damage you would have taken. The more you use it in battle, the slower it regenerates for that fight. Constantly using it to heal like a safety blanket can be very detrimental. Better spent on haste thanks to it being so goddamn overpowered, but that's another thing entirely. Why would I try to confuse or scan an opponent when I could just be dealing double damage? You can use the healing abilities outside of battle, however you won't regen it back while running around the dungeons. Only in fights, but like I said, as long as your usage is light, you'll be topped off in no time. My biggest complaint with the battle system as a whole would be the lack of fight boundaries. Having a clear idea of the limits of my movement would be very appreciated. It's a rare problem to be sure. Maybe drawing a green line over the battlefield to give you an idea of how much room you have to dodge would have been lovely, but I'm guessing that creating the meshes to display something like that would have come at a cost to performance. Parasite Eve runs pretty damn well with some high poly enemies. Speaking of enemies, my second pain point comes with something that's only really felt in the extra content. I don't understand the damage calculation for the monsters. I get having a higher defense stat lowers the damage you take. Easy. And they have 2 types of attacks that affect a different stat. Also peasy. But the amount of damage I can take from the same enemy can swing so wildly from a low 200 to almost 600. I'm not talking about attacks that half your HP are set to 1. I'm talking a roided out cockroaches open an attack almost decking me on the spot. I'll touch more on the difficulty for that stuff later since it's surprisingly tied to an ending. But that ending is so far away from us, so we might as well learn about mitochondria. Paying a visit to the museum before all hell breaks loose to talk to one Hans Clamp.
Hey, it's nice to meet you.
This world is imperfect.
What?
If only I could wipe away the impurities.
Is anybody else listening to
To
this?
make it as beautiful as me.
He gives us the biology lesson I never had, followed up by the true nature of mitochondria. Without it, us as humans could have never have thrived. They provide so much for us. They let us live, for they are the superior being. Aya and Daniel, not impressed, go back to the precinct to learn that people are amassing at Central Park. Melissa was planned to do a follow-up performance there the next day, but I guess nobody informed them that the lead has been feeling under the weather? We rush to Central Park, but as we approach, Daniel almost catches fire going anywhere near Eve, so Aya must go in alone. Reaching the amphitheater, a crowd is unfortunately gathered here, and Eve takes advantage of this situation. Unable to stop Eve, Aya chases her through the rest of Central Park until we find her next to a horse carriage? Eve invites Aya to take a ride with her. Aya, conflicted and wanting to know more, joins her, though the conversation quickly breaks down. I hope you know how to dodge in tight spaces! This fight continues until the carriage loses control and crashes, leaving Aya unconscious. She has a dream about a hospital and a little girl. Aya has been having visions of a girl in a blue dress multiple times throughout the game. The hospital too, especially after meeting Dr. Clamp. Aya wakes up in a house founded by a Japanese scientist named Maeda. The city has been evacuated due to the threat Eve poses to the people of the city. Fueled by curiosity, Maeda asks if there's a nearby lab he can use for tests. Well, there was this one guy in the museum. Arriving at the lab, Maeda confirms his fears. Eve's mitochondria has evolved to the point it can control the nucleus, able to dominate and change creatures, and humans alike. Aya asks Maeda if he could test her blood. Upon doing so, it's revealed that Aya's mitochondria has developed the ability to defend itself from Eve's. Curious. But before the gang could do anything else, Clamp shows up, completely disregarding the evacuation order, and acts vaguely evil at us until we leave. While we're being antagonized by the good doctor, Eve launches an attack against the precinct. By the time we got there, she's already gone. Maeda theorizes that this was a diversion, something to distract us from her real goal. This has not been the first time Eve has shown up. She once tried to birth the ultimate being in Japan. This is not just some plot stuff meant to flesh out the world. This is the events of the first Parasite Eve, aka Parasite Eve the novel. You see, the game you've been watching is a sequel to the book, which is oddly cool in my opinion. Most of the time, games based off of IPs turn into a mediocre adaptation of the source material at best. Deciding on using it as a launching off point to make something much more original is such a good idea. The game does a decent job of being a self-contained story. The issues crop up when you start asking questions. Just like the locations, it breaks down a little once scrutinized. So I think from this point onward we're throwing up the spoiler warning. It's a double spoiler too, as I'll be talking about the movie adaptation. When I was writing this review, I didn't realize that it was available in English on Amazon, but the movie was also on YouTube in HD with subtitles, so I'll be giving the movie version apart from the last act, because it's clear the game takes more from the novel ending rather than the movie, despite actually sharing visual elements from the movie. You'll see, I'll show stuff. Spoilers for the movie or the novel incoming. Guess I'm spoiling it all, huh? Eve is a being that's existed for millions, if not billions of years, taking a name from the mitochondrial Eve. Their only goal is the eradication of humankind, her presence being transferred between generations. Eve's ambition skyrocketed when she found Tokiyashi Nagashima, a university professor that specializes in mitochondrial research. Eve manipulates her current host, Kiyomi, into someone that Toshiaki would love, introducing herself to him on Christmas Eve.
今日は私の誕生日なの。だから2つ。
本当かな?
They soon marry, with their first anniversary being when the movie takes place. Eve puts Kiyomi on the organ donors list, and for maximum emotional strife, causes Kiyomi to crash her car on the day of the anniversary. Around the same time is a girl named Mariko. She is in desperate need of a new kidney, losing the will to live while hooked up to a dialysis machine.
説明したよね。マリコちゃんは週3回ここに来て、体の中に溜まったいらないものを取り出さなきゃいけないんだ。
After the crash, Kiyomi is soon pronounced brain dead. Tokiyashi is devastated. He shuts down, not helped by people hounding him to let Kiyomi die so they can get their hands on her organs. Mariko's doctor meets him in person to beg for her kidneys. Toshiaki eventually agrees under one condition, that he gets Kiyomi's liver.
条件がある。
腎臓を差し上げる代わりに清美の肝臓をください。
どういうことですか？
僕は医者ではないから清美を裁くことはできない。だからあなたが取ってください。
しかし肝臓を取って何を？
The doctor notes during the procedure that Kiyomi's kidney is very hot. Afterwards, he reluctantly hands him the liver, and Toshiaki gets to work culturing batches of her cells, eventually creating enough for Eve to reform back into a humanoid form at will. Using this, she hold on, you left this content warning in the intro? Just gonna put this down right here, okay? Okay. Tricks Tokiyashi that she is Kiyomi, resurrected, and they get down and dirty. Eve takes that sperm to the hospital where poor Mariko is recovering. After the kidney transplant, her body has been changing. Notably, her uterus is growing. Eve transforms her genitals and tickles Mariko. As Toshiaki and the doctor rush to hospital, Mariko has already given birth to the ultimate being, a terrifyingly powerful creature that starts unleashing psychic blasts. Strangely though, it quickly starts to degenerate. The mitochondria inherited from Tokiyashi causes rebellion inside the ultimate being. He comforts the being as it disintegrates, protecting everything from its blasts until they both become nothing. This is the full event Maeda is referring to when talking about the incident in Japan. So if Eve is here in New York, she might try to birth another ultimate being. Aya rushes to the hospital but is unable to stop Eve from obtaining the material she needs. She also finds out this was the same hospital that Melissa was treated at. She received a kidney transplant years ago, and was taking medication so the body would not reject it. The source of this kidney was Maya Brea, Aya's sister. Maya was in a car crash with her mother when she was young. The mother's name, it turns out, was Mariko. Before the crash, she put herself and Maya on the transplant list. How curious. I should note there's some retcons. Mariko was aged up for this plot point to work, or that's what we assume happened. Otherwise, there just happened to be a second Mariko who also had Eve's presence living in New York. Either way, the player needs to make a logical leap to connect the dots there. After the boss at the top of the hospital, Eve turns a jet fighter pilot into goo, spiraling the jet into another jet. The resultant wreckage is heading for the roof. You better find a way off. Oh, wait, this isn't a cutscene? Oh god, big hole? No. Stairs? Nuh-uh, crack won't let me reach it. Where do I go? What do I do? Elevator, save me! So yeah, not figuring this out is an instant game over. And I would be mad if the boss wasn't a pushover. Getting close, bait her melee attack so she can't use the range webs, and burst her down. Now, if it contained multiple phases that had a section right after that would instantly game over you, that would be a different story. But I'm sure that won't happen. While Aya was at the hospital, Daniel dug into Clamp's history. He was working at the hospital, which gave him access to all these resources. He was also fired for selling patient information. Turns out, before the incident at Carnegie Hall, Melissa was seen entering the museum that Clamp worked at regularly, under the influence of Eve most likely. There they created a plan to bring about the ultimate being, engineer an artificial sperm that contained no male DNA to avoid the rebellion that destroyed the last attempt. Clamp admits to such once confronted at the museum. Eve is here preparing for the birth. Once he's fulfilled his purpose, Clamp calls out to Eve in a last-ditch attempt to kill the gang, causing her to combust everything in the room. Daniel and Maeda jump out the window in like 4 frames. They were ready, damn. Clamp, charred on the floor and close to death, understands why Aya has been able to fight Eve. Aya tries to helping, but being such a prick, he chooses to spend his last breath insulting her. Rest in peace, you absolute fuckface. Aya finds Eve higher in the museum, though before she can really do anything, the mass of people from Central Park explodes from the sewers, forming a flesh giant that transports Eve out of the building. Next stop, Liberty Island. The military catches up with Aya after hearing about her exploits, the only person immune to Eve's powers. They ask her to fly a helicopter to land a decisive shot against the goal in protecting Eve. She agrees. We might have defeated her bodyguard and destroyed a national landmark, but Eve is still down there. Aya parachutes down to end it personally. The fight is over. The gang meet up with Aya on the battleship, and this lovely song plays. Nothing will be the same after this, but it is finally over. Inside the ship, we meet up with Wayne, who engraves our equipment for us, allowing us to give them names. That's nice, I guess. We can also store gear here, and there's a save point on the wall. Ah, fuck. Eve herself may have been defeated, however the ultimate being was still born. The gang escape on a helicopter. Aya refuses and decides to stop this thing from ending the world. Welcome to the final 4-phase boss fight. As you battle it, the ultimate being continues to evolve. First part is a baby, completely unaware of its power. Simply crying out can do massive damage. Second phase has 2 parts. A creature holds up the ultimate being. Once enough damage is done to either, they separate. The bird splits your attention while the child fires out massive beams. Press on and you'll soon see the third form. While very deadly, try your best not to look at the model too closely. It gets uncomfortable. Their list of attacks are hard to dodge, combined with a grab that sets your HP to 1. Makes it a very nasty phase. However, it's still not the end. The fourth and final form, completely impervious to lead. Aya on her last leg speaks to the creature. It's natural you want to live. After all, you were just born. But I want to live too, apologizing for her actions. Maeda laments on not being able to give Aya something before she left. He crafted bullets using the cell samples he took in the lab, to use as a weapon against Eve. Alas, all the way up here, his efforts seem to be wasted. Daniel, knowing that Aya needs those bullets, grabs the mag and jumps from the helicopter. New bullets in hand, Aya fights the ultimate being again, 999 damage. It's quite the power trip after everything you've been through with this boss. Finally, after taking so much damage, it rips itself apart. You finally won! Congratulations! Silly viewer. You think this is the end? The ultimate being gets up again. Aya, panicked, makes a new plan. If bullets won't work, then maybe a battleship-sized explosion might. Phone don't work, no more saving. As you run down this corridor, you'll soon find... Hold up. Pause. I want to ask you, the person watching this right now, a simple question. Should Aya go left or right? If you're unable to make a decision, simply flip a coin. The odds are only 50-50. Watch, I'll do it for you. Heads left, tails right. Fate has chosen tails. Let's resume. I'm sorry to say, viewers, those who are unable to make a choice or wanted to pick the right path, fate has deemed you unnecessary. This is one of the dirtiest tricks I've seen in a while. To have what I assume is a guaranteed game ender for picking the wrong direction is one thing, but to ignore the context of the game's systems, to throw them out the window, all for the sake of a one-hit KO, directly after a 4-phase boss fight, is just vindictive. Which is an absolute shame, because I actually like this sequence. Aya desperately running through the battleship to find the boiler room, to kill the unstoppable thing following her is great. Even does the 50-50 thing again later. However, you can see it's a dead end and correct yourself in time. It just soured the whole experience for me. The ship explodes! Aya manages to jump off in time, the ultimate being is well and truly dead. Aya, Daniel, and Maeda sit on the pier, reflecting on the events that have happened. Why is Aya immune to the influence of Eve? Why does she have these powers? Maeda cuts in. Because you have a part of Maya inside you. When Aya was 7, she had her right eye replaced because of a defect. That eye happened to be Maya's. Maeda continues. I think the mitochondria underwent a different kind of evolution. working together with the nucleus. As Aya takes this all in, the sun rises over New York. Sometimes after the event of the story, the crew go to watch the opera from the beginning of the game. I would have assumed this theatre would have gotten a reputation, but I guess in the world of musicals, that's only a boon. As everyone watches the opera, however, the camera zooms into Aya's eyes. So, this has some implications. My interpretation is that now that Melissa's mitochondria is out of the picture, Eve uses Aya as the new host, with the residents of New York as her thralls. Second theory would be that this is a taste of things to come. Perhaps Aya would have been the villain in a theoretical sequel. We know that's not the case because we have a Parasite Eve 2, obviously, but it's still fun to think about. Or maybe it's just a thing in the Chrysler building being evil. Oh sorry, did I forget that part? Apologies. Let's replay the whole game again so I can include it. EX Game is the name of the new game plus, continuing from the save that gives you a bunch of bonus points to spend on what you want. Your engraved weapons and armor stay in your inventory, along with all the items in storage that were not plot relevant. Also makes the enemies a tad stronger, I think? Finding concrete facts about PS1 games that haven't undergone 25 years of internet telephone can be a pain. Regardless, the moment you have access to the map screen, a new location pops up. The Chrysler building and all of its 77 glorious floors. You can attempt it from the word go? Not the best idea though. It's recommended that you reach a decent level before entering, which means almost beating the game for a second time. It won't take you very long. Parasite Eve is actually kinda short, doubly so when you have OP weapons. So, you enter the building, admire the dark eco? The dark eco! The dark eco! So you enter the building, admire the Art Deco once again, climb the stairs. Welcome to a roguelike! Every floor up to 71 will be randomized. Your goal is to reach the stairs to the next floor, with a bonus objective of finding the scariest supply closet in gaming. Hello? This contains top tier loot that you can't find in the main game. Now, navigating this area might seem like a pain, given that you have no map. Well, we have a secret weapon for this. It's called, noticing that the game uses pre-rendered backgrounds so we can use that to our advantage since the devs only made so many backdrops. Or Nut Tut Gup Swirl Cut Toast Doms Mumb, for short, of course. Let me show you the theory. Stairs to the next floor can only be connected to north exits, simply because the game only has one room design for exits. Same go for the elevators and storerooms, both of which must be connected to the east and west exits of a room. Each of these look different from the passageways and dead ends that are also distinct. If we take this right exit and we see this goop vent, this one down here, it's a dead end 100% of the time. No need to waste time checking. Every direction has a background element you can identify very quickly to minimize travel time, making these floors a lot easier to traverse. Unfortunately, you will still get lost at some point. It's hard not to. When you have 70 floors of the same design, eventually your mental stat gets overloaded, usually because of the chests. Once that's happened, good luck not walking back to the entrance. Waiting for you at every 10 floors is the boss. Take them out and you have a key that will let you back to this floor. For the first 40 floors, this place is not interesting. Filled to the brim with low-level enemies that will drop in 1 or 2 shots. This place also gives trash tier EXP too. Lovely. Next up, floor 50. We've already touched on this absolute bastard. It's a straight DPS check. If you cannot deal enough damage in time, it will spawn a second cockroach. Doesn't matter if you kill the first one, the rules still apply. Welcome to Cockroach 3. This boss cost me 50 minutes of progress. Remember, these floors are random, and you can only come back after defeating the boss. I also don't save state things when emulating, unless I'm skipping chunks of zero gameplay. I wouldn't get the same level of emotional devastation as someone else doing this on console. Why I do this? So I die, and I think to myself, even if I get back up there and defeat the cockroach, there's no telling what's waiting for me on the next 10 floors. I better prepare. Logically, I beat the game again. Afterwards, I did not feel that much stronger. So, again, we beat the game a third time. Felt the same. So in order to get the full Square RPG experience, I grinded up to level 99. Shoutouts to White Light for giving me something to watch as I ran between rooms for 4 hours.
So it's a complete shot in the dark, whether you'll be able to move or you'll be stuck there like a buffoon shaking your head, because the game has decided you need to comply with health and safety regulations. Sorry Ubisoft, next time I'll try not to run in the corridors.
Okay, floor 70, show me what you got. Oh, it's just a lovely room. That's actually kind of nice. At the tippity top, we find True Breed Eve, in the form of Maya. You see, Clamp also cultured another body from Eve, using Maya's liver. We just love doing that, huh? As a backup plan, she's been biding her time atop the Chrysler building, in case Melissa or the Ultimate Being failed. Eve taunts Aya by showing that Maya is still inhabiting the body, which is quite the move, you didn't have to do that. Afterwards, she transforms into her true blood form. So here's the rub. I may have overprepared for this fight, seeing that it was a complete cakewalk. But in my defense, the game killed me after a 4-phase boss fight. It didn't deserve mercy. It deserved none. No mercy. After defeating Eve, Aya drops to her knees. A new voice rings inside her head. Eve has also been waiting inside of her. Unleashed thanks to Aya's powers growing in strength. Things go dark as Eve states, "It's simply survival of the fittest." Until a second voice chimes in, Maya's voice. She refuses to let Eve take a hold of her sister. Maya purges her presence along with Eve. Aya rising up, no longer having any powers. It's all gone. Melancholic, she leaves the building with her memories of Maya. Second story ending achieved. This ending can be triggered at any point in the game past Chapter 1. All the way up to the point of no return. It can't really connect itself back into the game's story events. I do like it has elements of evolution tied into New Game Plus. Aya could have only gone this strong because of that mechanic. Every playthrough bringing you closer and closer to Eve's power level. It just creates some awkward questions. The game just ends on the spot after Aya leaves the room. What happened to Melissa? What's the state of the city? Did the Ultimate Being still get born? No, don't think about it. You could argue that once True Breed Eve got defeated, the rest of the mitochondria shut down, if it helps you sleep at night. I haven't played the sequel yet, but as far as I understand, neither ending is canon anyway. We all lose. People call this era of PS1s the golden age of Square, a time where dev costs were low enough for people to toy with gameplay ideas, with a team that had the execution to pull them off. Any genre of game could be roleplayed into a new experience. For the first mature game the studio produced, the team did a great job. Absolutely fantastic. Hopefully I've conveyed my feelings on Parasite Eve. After how long? Holy shit. I can understand why I felt the way I did all those times. I love the emphasis on dodging and movement, at times feeling like an easier bullet hell with RPG mechanics. The love and care of including architecture from real-life New York. Yoko Shimomura's music is always a treat, no matter the game. It's the pursuit of the director's ideal, a cinematic RPG that both keeps it tightly paced while including story beats and mechanics that required more effort to work in this game. Instant death in a JRPG is very rare, but in a horror game, you'd have to find one that doesn't. It's a lean experience too. You'll find out quickly if it's your jam. Highly recommend for a Halloween game that's light on the spooks. Guess I gotta play the sequel next, huh? A game that chose to follow the survival horror formula a bit too closely, I think. But I'll see you then. Welcome to the end of the video, where I say words into a dark hole. I'll try and keep this one brief because I do want this video to be under an hour. Thank you very much. We'll start with that, I guess. I promise I had no intention making this as long as it is, but as I wrote the script, it just kind of fell out of me and suddenly, oops, 14 pages. Which is not normally how that works for me. Whether I want to make long videos, I'm not sure of yet. Since this was just something to work on while I figure out the Shadowheart situation. I kinda like taking more time to talk about a game, though only if it comes from the heart. Basically, if a video would be longer, I prefer it to be more like this one, and not what happened to Lost Kingdoms. Unchecked scope creep was kinda new to me. It was the first time it happened. I don't hate it, though I do look back on it and think, it could have been better. Surely the next video will be shorter. Hopefully. Number 2 is I'm expecting to get clowned on for the section that talks about the Zuki. I kinda need to say that this isn't a angry man get angry for funny. It's genuinely how I feel about that section. Thankfully, having the knowledge about the key or some of the things that happen later in the game means I won't stumble again if I ever replay Parasite Eve. That's not an excuse or a defense. I still don't think the key should be like that. I feel like there should be a shine next to it, but that does mean it will get better. Kind of like what happened to Mirror's Edge now I think about it. Huh. Lastly is a bit of a self-plug. Hi! I make into videos. Subscribing would be lovely. Using movie footage worries me a little. If the video got eaten, it would be kinda devastating. So, I'll ask for support. YouTube memberships are available for £1, or if YouTube is too sketch for you, there's a coffee link in all my videos. Anything would be greatly appreciated. Though, please keep this in mind. I want you to listen. Please keep this in mind. I want you to take care of yourself first and foremost, okay? Okay. The funny rat man will be fine. With that all the way, see you in the next video that will most likely be a Castlevania game. Which one? Yes.